Final feelings. The Dogs and Rebels are getting ready to. It's a top 10 matchup in Athens, another huge game between these two schools. Final feelings brought to you by our friends at So Poly Outdoor Furniture. I'm going to talk about some of the awesome deals they have in a second. But first, let's talk about this game. Georgia is still sitting at a significant favorite to win this game. Our buddies over at BetQL still have this game as, Georgia as a 7.5 point favorite. They view it as the Dogs being about a 9 point favorite. So, look, when you're at a touchdown in conference play, you should be winning that game, something like that. But it will be a challenge. I mean, Mississippi they're just not like Ole Miss teams in the past. These teams have really been tested this season. It's been some not great teams they've played: Kentucky, Arkansas, etc. But I mean, Georgia's played Kentucky. They have a very good win over LSU, who's a top 10 team. So these two teams are not dissimilar in many ways. By this time a year ago, the Ole Miss had lost 2 games. They lost to Kentucky, just I don't even know what to say about that, and then lost to LSU. Then they started picking up steam, and the win over Georgia was as consequential a win as they've had in program history. So it didn't get them anywhere, and I'm not hating. I'm just saying what it was. I mean, Ole Miss is not typically ranked, certainly not ranked in the top 10. And right now, it's been a goodish 15 years for Ole Miss. Things have been going fine. This Ole Miss team is not as gifted as the last few, as last year's. This year's team, they go on the road. They beat Kentucky by 7. They beat Arkansas at Vaught-Hemingway by 6. They really played well. They probably played the best game they played against Tulane. That was a really good win for them. I mean, Tulane is not a horrible team by any stretch of the imagination. That was a good win for them. That's their only loss. I mean, that's Tulane's only loss. Tulane's beaten Duke, who is a decent team. So, and then you had the win over LSU, and then I don't know what that was against Washington State. That was the attendance being 66,000 has got to be a joke. There might have been 40,000 people there, maybe. It looked like old Ole Miss to me. But this game right now for the Rebels is a big deal. If they win this game, there's just not much in the way of them getting into the playoff. There's just not a lot of games left. I don't know if you can completely say that for Georgia. They're not too far away from that being the case as well, though. I mean, you've got for Ole Miss, part of the problem is, as from what I just said is Oklahoma good? They host South Carolina, they play Florida, and they go to State. Like, they should win those games typically. But Ole Miss is not, I don't know. And then for Georgia, they play Florida, they play Ole Miss. They play Florida, they play Mississippi State. And of course, they got Tech. So and Texas. So there are some legitimate games left on Georgia's schedule, but you do need to start winning games and adding some stuff up. A year ago at this time, Georgia was going into the Texas game. They were really not playing great. It was, I can't remember what Texas was ranked last year. They were up there, number 2. No, they were number 1, excuse me. So they were number 2 for the SEC championship game. So, they went on the road and beat the number 1 team in the country by double digits, 15 points, whatever it was. I mean, they completely did whatever they wanted to do defensively against Texas. It was a great win for Georgia. Probably one of the best wins Kirby Smart has ever had. You can get one of the best deals you've ever had. Look, this is a $514 chair. This chair is going to last you for a long, long time from our friends at So Poly Outdoor Furniture, okay? However, you can use the code DEAN10, DEAN, and the number 10, and get 10% off. All right, that drops it below in the $400 level, and you're not going to pay for shipping. You can customize this. If you don't want red and black, let's just say you want sort of a mountain look. Or excuse me, yeah, we'll go right on the fly here. We'll go with some teal action for you. Your beach house looks like that, or maybe this is more appropriate for your beach house. Or some people have their beach house like this that looks more like Augusta or Wimbledon, whatever. Use that code. They're such great friends of ours down there in Dodge County. It's manufactured in Georgia completely. They're getting the job done. And they've been our partner in the past. I've used the chair when they were not our partner. This is an outstanding company. The stuff is made to last. Take advantage of that code DEAN10. today. The shipping is probably where you're going to get saved the most money, to be honest with you. But you know, this year is not last year. This week is not next week. There's all sorts of, stuff that it. If Georgia plays, again, I say this, a lot. If Georgia plays like they played in the first quarter of the Auburn game, the first quarter of the Tennessee game, the first quarter of the Alabama game, during this game, they'll lose. If they play like they did every other quarter of this year, they'll win. Probably going away. My suspicion is that they will win going away. That's my suspicion. I mean, I think that this is more likely to be Georgia winning by 10 than it is by 3. But I think that it's more likely that they win than lose by, I would say, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. And I think that when you look at Georgia and the way this defense is played in the second half of games, that is not going to be limited to the second half of games the rest of this season. It's not like there's like some switch or some hurdle or barrier that's preventing them from doing well at the beginning of games. Other teams try really hard at the beginning of the games. They scout stuff. They know particular things they're going to do. There's strategy involved. However, over time, you start seeing that teams, as you get deeper into the season, there are fewer and fewer things that you've not run during the year. And so these massive staffs, support staffs at Georgia and Texas and Carolina and Alabama and Kentucky and all these places, their job is to look at the film, break down the film. What are these guys doing on these situations? Know immediately what it is and kind of prepare for that. Can they audible away from that? Can they adjust away from that? The other team? Of course they can. This is football. And then sometimes you just have guys make plays. Our best play in basketball was fist, something called fist. What was fist? There was 10 seconds left on the shot clock, and we gave it to the best guy on our team, did a high ball screen, and let the best player play. You can do that if you have a really dominant player, if you have a really spectacular player like Johnny Manziel, Cam Newton, maybe Tim Tebow, but guys that can make things happen, create things. Ty Simpson, I would say, is a very good quarterback and can make things happen at Alabama. This quarterback at Ole Miss has been very good for sure, but Ole Miss has got some red flags right now. He's never played a road game. Now, that might not affect in the SEC. He's never played a road game in the SEC. I don't know if that matters a ton. I think it matters if you get down. I think that matters for the offensive line, for the offense. I think for the quarterback, you could have some issues getting in and out of the huddle when it's extremely loud and noisy. Yeah, and I think if you're Georgia, if you're the fans, you want to cause as many problems for the Rebels as you can, because it really, again, going from 2nd and 5 to 2nd and 10 because of a procedure penalty or because of a false start or any number of things, that's what you'd like to see. But Ole Miss can really, they're averaging 500 yards a game of offense. They're the number 8 passing offense in the country, 311 yards a game. Now, they're not doing that to everybody. We know that. But, the red flags are they don't stop the run. I mean, they're giving up 150, it's just called 160 yards. That's not good. Like, that's a problem. I think that's a real, concern. And then, penalties are one of the most penalized teams in the country. Those are not good. Like, that's not what you want against Georgia. Their defense has played pretty well most of the season. They gave up 35 to Arkansas. I don't know what happened there. But for the most part, they've kept everybody under or around 20. Everybody else, Georgia State, Del McGee's there. You got Kentucky, 23 points. Again, the 35 against Arkansas. Their best game was against Tulane. They won that game 45-10. It's a good Tulane team. I don't think they'll be in the playoff, but it is a good Tulane team. They held LSU to 19. And they held Washington State to 21. But Washington State threw punches with them for 60 minutes. And right now, Ole Miss should get to the playoff, just looking at things. I don't know what to expect of Oklahoma from here on out. They could lose to South Carolina. They could lose to Florida. They could lose to Oklahoma. And obviously, they probably should lose to Georgia. Maybe they, quote, should lose to Oklahoma. I'm not sure about that. But, you win this game if you're Ole Miss. I mean, I'm not. I mean, you never know with Lane's teams. They tend to strangely lose games, particularly at the end of the year. But the chirping this week, this is very similar to what he did with Nick. And he had a hard time. I don't know if he ever beat Nick Saban's teams at Alabama. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. So, but he is as good a play caller as there is in college football. I mean, Lane Kiffin is an elite play caller. He's exceptional at calling plays. He's a very good offensive coordinator. You see that a lot. They're scoring. I mean, it's not like it's been in the past where they just go nuts on people. These last 2 games, they've not scored 30 points. So, but they're throwing it a bunch and all of that. But it is, the almost 75 yards in penalties a game. That's just way too much, man. Now, on third down, they're doing really well. On third down, they convert on third down, so they're getting into third and manageable consistently. But if you look at it and you say, what's the challenge for the Rebels? I would be a little bit concerned that the run is kind of problematic looking to me. The run defense, total defense, Georgia's 26th right now in the country. Passing yards, they're about halfway there with everybody. It's not been unbelievable. Scoring defense is top 20, 17 a game. Turnover margin has not been great for either of these teams. But penalties, Georgia's top 20 right now, 22, excuse me. So not a ton of penalties a game for the Dogs. But they're doing what they want to do, which is run the ball, 186 yards a game. That's a lot. You can control a lot doing things that way. Can Ole Miss stop them? Doesn't look like it. And that's like I think in these games, everybody thinks the first quarter is the decider of games. When first quarters seem to go by way quicker now than they used to, you might not get 3, possessions in the first quarter. In fact, you a lot of times don't. It takes a little bit of time for a game to kind of flesh out and feel the way it's going to go. This Mississippi team might be the best team Georgia faces the rest of the way in the regular season. I don't know. I mean, it's either them, Texas, or Tech. Texas has really just not been great. They've had real challenges. Georgia Tech's undefeated. They're top 12 or whatever. They've had some situations themselves. So, I think if Tech beats Duke this week, that goes a long way. But they're not playing the level of teams that the SEC teams are playing. They're not playing them at all. I mean, your best win right now is either Colorado or Clemson if you're Tech. And both those teams have had, multi-loss seasons so far. Georgia's best win is Tennessee. I think Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama right now, and probably A&M, all look like they're poised for the playoff, but they all play each other too, generally speaking. I mean, Texas and Georgia, Ole Miss and Georgia, Texas and A&M, etc. Alabama's still got Tennessee and vice versa. There's still a pretty long season to go. If you're Georgia and you come into this game and you do what you want to do, you'll probably win it by 17 points. I don't know what the future holds, though, when Georgia's been so inconsistent. I don't think that will continue. And here's the reason why, is that Georgia played 6 games this year so far. We're halfway through the season. We've seen multiple games, 3, so half the season. We've seen 3 of the 4 SEC games. We've seen them get off to slow starts in terms of defensively and offensively in the first quarter. We've seen 3 of those games. We've seen a multi-score lead for the other team. But against Tennessee, I don't know if I would say it was a slow start. They got down 14-0, and at the end of the first quarter, Tennessee scores and goes up 21-7. Georgia dominates the game from that point forward, and wins in overtime. Against Alabama, they get down 14-0. They score in the second to kind of get it tighter and all this stuff. That game, Georgia dominated the second half defensively, certainly, but I just this it's offensively, the challenge has been there's been some 3-and-outs at the beginning of the games. And that, when people say slow start, they basically mean you didn't get the lead. For me, if Georgia gets the lead in the first or second quarter, the game might be over by the half. We've not seen that as much. This offense is not as explosive as the ones in the past, so that's another reason why we've not seen so much stuff like that. But I think if you're watching Georgia on Saturday, are they controlling the line of scrimmage? That did not happen a year ago with Ole Miss, more than probably any other team. Are they controlling the line of scrimmage? Are they doing what they want to do defensively in terms of getting pressure, not getting in situations, getting some pressure, not getting into situations where it's 3rd and 3 for Ole Miss every single time, and you're allowed to get off the field on 3rd and 3s too. So they really stuffed Auburn in a lot of situations. But once Auburn started not being in, perfectly fine situations, they had a hard time against the Georgia defense. So this is really, I wonder what it will be like if Ole Miss gets the ball. Let's just say Georgia goes down and kicks a field goal, or, what it will be like, what the stadium will sound like when Ole Miss gets the ball. Because if Ole Miss gets the ball and goes 3-and-out, people will smell blood. They'll be like, oh my gosh, we haven't seen this except against Kentucky. That's it. But SEC games are not supposed to be easy. They're difficult for a reason. It's because the league is difficult. And I think Georgia, this is a game they should win. I expect them to win, and I think that they will win. But they've got it. You do want to play well, and they've got two of the best specialists in college football. And Peyton Woodring missed a kick last week. I don't care. That guy is a straight up weapon. Same thing with Brett Thorson. Those two guys are exceptionally good. Okay, and then you've got an offense that gets better as the game goes on. It seems. And you got a defense that might get better as the game goes on, it seems. But that seems clear. But I think, for Georgia, can you control the line of scrimmage? If you can do that, you'll be in good shape. I expect Georgia to win. We'll see. We'll see you from the car ride tomorrow. Thanks for watching.